Hello, everyone. Ray Newman's with Coffee with Ray. Thank you for joining me here today. This is part one of lessons learned from the losses. Now, I'm not talking about losing of family members, losing of people that you care about, and love. It looks like my glasses are a little crooked, so I'm trying to change that. So this is when you just swing and miss. You just don't get it right. Don't have any reason why this happened, but Um, I'll take you to a personal story from me where a loss was crippling. I mean, just crippling to the point of no return. It was I was a young kid. We grew up in Cedar Key, Florida, and basketball was everything. Yeah, that. If you didn't play basketball, then you wasn't. Then you weren't part of the club. But we barely had enough people to play basketball most of the time. So, very small school, very small community. So it was a big deal to be able to play JV basketball. Big deal to play on the varsity team. But if you stuck around long enough, you'd probably get a chance because there wasn't like we had Michael Jordan sitting on the bench waiting. But it was still difficult. That means people who they had to create their own role in the sport. So my brother was very, very talented at basketball. I was more of a baseball guy, but I didn't do bad, but probably wasn't the greatest. I don't think I would have I don't think I'd have made it if I'd have been in a bigger school, might not have wore a jersey, but I did love the game. I love being around the people. I loved being in the group, and it was fun. It was fun to experience that emotional high. When you're running out and when your team's doing well. But where my loss was, so we were trying out for JV basketball. And I mean, I'd spent my whole summer running from my house to the airport and back and with weights in my hands. And because I was a pretty heavy kid, that year before. So I knew that the first 2 weeks of basketball was all physical training. That's what we did for 2 weeks. It's just that's how they kind of called you out. And so I got prepared and probably was, for that time without a lot of tutoring and education on what I should be doing. I wasn't lifting weights and all that stuff. I was just doing a lot of cardio and a lot of running. But I remember my mom actually walked with me one time, and I would run down to the airport and I'd get up on the sand and run in the sand out in front of one of my old friends' house that hopefully will be watching this one day. Uh, where did the loss come from? Well, we were on our way to the physical basketball tryout. I made it through the physical part. I'd smoked it. I mean, I'd done as good as I could do, and I believe that I was in a very good place to be able to physically be accepted on the team. Now it was time to be accepted on the team because of your ability to play the actual sport. And we played a lot of pickup basketball at the park in Cedar Key. So I knew I at least had the basics. So we had a lot of people that like to teach basketball and would teach you how to shoot and all that stuff. So that was the culture. Basketball was the culture. So I'm riding my bicycle to this tryout. And it's a group of us. I can't remember who was in front of me, but man, we were excited and we were pedaling down to this place, to the gym from my house. And my front tire caught the back tire of the person in front of me and it flipped me off my bike and I landed on my wrist. And that was bad because at that point in time, I was like, okay, I just banged it up a little bit, no big deal. But get the practice. It was medicine ball drills. Every time something hit my hand, it was, send shockwaves up my shoulder and stuff. And man, my life was over. I was like, I can't use my left arm to do anything. My life was over. You're a young guy, you're trying to get onto a basketball team and you just get injured. You put all this work in, you've done all this hard work without being told to. I mean, I made this stuff up on my own. I just figured out what I thought was needed to go do this. And that's what I did. So a couple days go by, arm keeps swelling. Mom finally comes and picks me up from school and takes me to a doctor. And I had chipped the bone in my wrist, and I had to have a cast. So man, I just thought this was over. So I continued to go to practice, continue to do stuff, and the next thing I know, was allowed to play. So this loss that haunted me just complete. It didn't matter. But here's what the lesson in the loss was, is that it kept it where I couldn't put my full hand left hand on the ball. So I only could put my fingers on there. And that was probably, now I'm not saying my shooting ability stayed decent throughout the whole, maybe it wasn't good at all. I thought it was okay, but it might not have been good at all. But for that year, I played with that cast on, and I shot fairly well and actually became a better shooter because them fingers, I wasn't, palming the ball with my left hand and doing some things I didn't even know I was doing wrong. So, what does this matter, Ray? Why are we talking about a cast on your arm and a basketball and all this stuff? Well, the bigger picture in this is that if I would have never broke that arm, I would have never known how important it was for me to be on that team. And then number two, I would have never learned how to simply changing my grip on my left hand could have changed my shot. And it did. It made me I wasn't very consistent in the first place, but it made me more consistent, which I needed that. So, how does this relate to everyday life? And where did I go to the Bible to find some? So, it's not hard. I mean, you can open the book and just start reading. I mean, from Moses to Adam and Eve to Joseph, Joshua, Jacob, all Israel, there is 1,000 different times where people fail, and God takes their failure and makes something fabulous. I mean, he turns that loss, that, hey, I tried and didn't win, he makes it something great. So I'm not saying that we learn that we always win in our losses. I think sometimes we lose at a sport or in business or with our family 100% because it's just the way it is. I mean, there's not going to be any other part of the story for us to talk about. But then there is times where I truly in my heart believe, and because of my faith in Christ and the gospel, I believe that everything that happens to me has a bigger purpose. And we're gonna we're gonna settle right there. Is that the biggest lesson in the losses is that if you are lost, I mean, if you do not have your feet planted firmly on the ground, then there will never be anything that matters, or you will never be able to adjust and fix anything. And there's so much bad teaching out there with mentors and online gurus and all that stuff where you just keep grinding. Well, yeah, we got to get up every morning and keep grinding, but there's times where we need to step back and learn from what didn't work and try to find a lesson from it. So that kid that spent a whole summer drive running himself up and down a road, to get on this team now is probably not even going to get to play. But then it turns out to where my shot's better. I still get to play. And a lot of people wouldn't look at that as a loss, but it was a loss because I mean, I had to have the cast on for a long, long time. And I lost a lot of dexterity and my ability to control the ball with dribbling and stuff. So in this instance, my loss taught me a better way to shoot, you know, a little bit more patience with the system and with saying, "Hey, look, this might be for now, but it might not be forever. This loss might seem huge right now, but it might not be for all time. It might not be infinite." And when everyone lo- everyone loves to go to the Bible, and when they think of someone that lost a lot and had a hard time, would be Lot. um, or Job, or Lot, lost his wife. I mean, she turned around and she sinned and was turned into a pillar of salt. And Job, I mean, lost his family. He was a righteous man. He didn't do anything wrong, but he was tested. And we won't get into the lefts and rights of that today. I will be doing a study on the life of Job and how we can take some wins from him. So take some of his losses and we can benefit from the wins. But I mean, he lost everything, but it was restored. But boy, the time between the loss and the restoration was painful. So lesson for the day with coffee with Ray, and just coffee with Ray is that we don't always win. There is going to be losses in our life. We're going to lose sometimes more than we win. If you put yourself out there, then you will. And I think we have a generation of young men and women that are just not going to put themselves out there because of the fear of this loss and the fear of facing that, because the social media world that we live in, everything's so expanded and inflated. I mean, I could have done something really stupid. I did a lot of really stupid stuff when I was growing up, and it didn't get broadcasted all over the internet. So younger people today have a serious hard time with losing because it seems so much greater, and it is. I mean, I think the consequence of losing in public is a lot greater, but that doesn't mean we don't get up to bat. We've got to grab the bat. We've got to get up to the plate, and we've got to swing because we're called, we're created, and we're made to do something. And that something is not anything that, I mean, I can't write you a note and say what that is. If it's, going to college or starting a podcast like this crazy old guy's trying to do, whatever it is, don't let the losses stop you, because if when my arm broke when I fell off that bike, if I decided never to play basketball again just because it didn't go my way, I would have missed out being able to share the court and the experience with some amazing people. I mean, I had amazing coaches, I had amazing friends. A lot of my friendships were made on that basketball court, and not necessarily even on the games. It was the pickup games and at the city park, and that sport created so much character for me, even though that the people that were probably playing with me then or adults around me at that time didn't think it was ever going to do any good for me. um, it did. It really gave me the sense of camaraderie and a team, being able to be a team player, because it's kind of difficult being able to go out there and play, and you have to work 6 7 times harder than some other people. But um my brother had a natural talent, and man, he was good. And I think everybody would agree with me on that one. So to close up today, with Coffee with Ray, I would like to say, hey, bring out a piece of paper and just write down some of the things that you think are the most tragic losses in your life, the things that you just swung and missed, you tried and it failed. Just write them down. Just write them down, and then look at them again, of how it changed you in the negative and how it changed you in the positive. And if there's not any positive there, then you understand that you didn't learn from your lesson. So grab your pen and paper and check out me. I'm going to try to do these on a daily basis. I'm going to pre-record most of these throughout on one day and then just post them throughout the week. But as of today, uh, part one of lessons from the losses, lessons learned from the losses, is, hey, don't give up. Don't give up. And you got to get up to bat. If you fall down and you break something, put a cast on it and show up the next day. So until tomorrow, y'all have a wonderful day. I'll pray for you, as hopefully you will pray for me. And let's keep on keeping on and making the best out of what we can do. And in a final note, if you need any counseling, or if you're experiencing any depression, please check out a website. I'll put it in the show notes. It is transformed.org. It's Dr. Greg Gifford. It's a place where you can go and learn about how to handle your emotions, and then a website where you can search and find Christian counselors in your area. Until tomorrow, y'all have a wonderful day. And thank you for joining me with Coffee with Ray.